Okay, just making sure I'm recording there. I think it's working out.
Yay.
Well, hello and welcome everyone once again, or for your first time to the Creative Nectar podcast. I am Stephanie Gray.
And I'm Jenny Hahn. Hey, everyone.
Howdy, y'all. So, once again, we are the co-hosts of Creative Nectar podcast, or the co-founders of Creative Nectar Studio, and we are delighted to be here today. Today, we're going to talk about a question that Jenny had come up in one of the workshops, the in-person workshops she was doing a while ago. And it's a valid question. And the question was, will I always paint like a first grader? And I love this question because I think a lot of us feel that way who don't have any art training. Um, and I think it's something that can keep us stuck and afraid to create. So I love that we're going to be covering this today.
Yeah, I feel like this is a question that has come up a lot. Maybe not always this worded this way, but I feel like a lot of folks that we've worked with have kind of wondered this for themselves and have implied it. And yeah, I'm excited to dive into this because it's so natural to want to get to a certain place with our creative work, with our painting, whatever we're doing. When we're doing art, when we're engaging with art for process, it is a raw and spontaneous practice. And yet, why is it that so many of us feel like we need it to look a certain way? We need something that we paint to meet some sort of standard assigned by the outer world, the art world, the critic world, whatever. And why do we feel this way? That it has to be, you know, we were, so you and I were just talking off air, but I was referencing this quote from Picasso, who said, "It took me 4 years to paint like Raphael, but a lifetime to paint like a child."
And there you
I
have it.
mean, this is one of the most famous artists of probably modern times. And I can think of other famous artists in art history whose work resembles children's drawings. Jean-Michel Basquiat, the artist from New York who did kind of graffiti-like style. Very, very vibrant and raw and chaotic and childlike. Joan Miró, Paul Klee, I mean, all these different surrealists and expressionists and modern, I mean, so much of modern art, it seems like, has a childlike quality. And that's why you can go to a museum and you'll hear somebody say, "My 5-year-old could have done that."
Or I could do that.
I could do that.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to me that even when someone has that training and has the accolades of the fine art world, whatever, it's that there's often that desire to get back to the childlike, raw expression. And I think of it as a grass is always greener kind of thing. Like if we do have the training, we're trying to get back. If we don't have the training, we're trying to get somewhere. And I know for me, having studied in art school, it was no accident that I found process arts right at around the time of my graduation, and at a time when I was needing to do some deep inner healing work and physical healing, and it all sort of came together at that time. And I remember the freedom of that, the freedom of having the brush and the tempera paints and no rules, no conventions, no art critiques at the end, nobody telling me how to do it or comparing it to anything else or trying to um, deconstruct it or anything. It's just simply raw, spontaneous, loose expression. and and similar to children's art, like the simple and innocent and pure and honest expression. There's a beauty in that.
There is a beauty in that, and I think that's why we all try to get back to that to some degree, that sort of childlike wonder that we all talk about, and that spontaneity, the freedom that you talked about. I have freedom in my notes written really big, like, because when you
Yes.
do art for process, paint for process, there is that freedom moment, which is so important for all of us. And I think Michelle Cassou, when she started this whole process art, she was working with children first, right? Or she was
Oh, yeah.
watching children as they created, and there was just this spontaneity, and there was just no hangups, and it was just pure delight. And
Yes.
so I remember
Yes.
we were briefly, the last time we came together, Jenny and I, we were talking about, okay, well, what's the next podcast we want to do? And she's like, I'd really like to do this. And so I sat with it and I was thinking, well, why wouldn't we want to create like a first grader? But then I realized, I realized how that felt initially, how I felt initially, going into a big room
Mm.
full of people and paint and paper and brushes and things I wasn't familiar with. And that sort of stifled feeling, flash forward almost 30 years to how I live my life now. And there is very much a childlike quality to my life. I'm not going to lie. I mean,
Mm.
there's that
Yeah.
wonder, the daily wonder that comes in, and just the connection that can happen when we're truly creating just for creativity's sake, just to see what happens, that curiosity.
Mm. Yeah. So how did you get from that? I want to hear more about that. Like that first time that you went to a process art workshop, you picked up the paintbrush, you hadn't painted since ever? I don't know. Like
Possibly.
how was that for you? And how did you get from that point to to where you are now?
um, well, I'm sure, in fact, I have old pictures of myself like painting with my fingers, right? So I know that I did when I
Mm.
was very young, 2, 3 years old. And I'm sure I did in school somewhat, but I really had no muscle memory at this point. When I was in my 20s, life had gotten taken hold, and I was, I just, that wasn't in my wheelhouse at all. So the fact that I even showed up was amazing. I've talked about this before, but the fact that I said yes when I generally said no to new things was just astounding. But I think once you just start moving, once I started moving, things began to open up. And it really helped to have Sarah facilitating in her gentle, kind way that she does,
Yes.
just encouraging me to what if, getting curious, what's the smallest thing you can do? Like, it was just an easeful way into that unknown world that then broke open eventually. I mean, I did have that experience by the end of the workshop, of that freedom, and that, oh
Mm.
wait, it even had me thinking, why do I do some of the things that I do the way that I do them?
Mm.
But it's to get from where I am now or to get from where I was then to where I am now. It was a whole process. It's a unlearning. It's an unlearning.
Mm. So did you ever have a point where you were like, I don't want to paint like a first grader anymore? Like, was that ever a struggle, or was it more of an embrace
I
of
still do. I mean, I still do to a degree, because I can look at someone like you who has training but is also deep in process, and it's just like, just so amazing. And then I feel sometimes stifled by my lack of not knowing, but then when I lean into the not knowing, or I create hands that are 10 times bigger than the rest of the figure, when I don't fight it and I just assume, okay, that's just meant to be, then that's where the magic like bursts open, because suddenly I have
Yeah.
this figure that is started with a stick figure, to be honest, because many of my figures start literally with a stick figure that I learned probably, again, as a toddler, or maybe a
Hmm.
little bit later. and
Yeah.
then I build on that. And the hands can be very, very big and clumsy or on backwards or whatever, but there's something delightful about that when we allow that to happen and when we're okay with it. And it's really helped me accept myself, like the flaws, the perceived flaws of myself. And um, there's just, yeah, I mean, I still wish I had a little more talent, but at the same time, it wouldn't be me. I mean, I guess it would if I had it, but I don't. So, so I'm just celebrating that, you know?
I've always had a hard time with the word talent. I still I don't know, I still struggle with that word. I feel like there's some outer judgment embedded in it.
Yeah.
I don't quite understand that word talent. I understand desire and maybe a natural proclivity towards something, but talent, I don't know. It just so much of how we judge or perceive art in our culture is cultural based, is outer standards based, and it's strange to me.
Well, yeah.
I don't know. Like just thinking back to past, yeah, more indigenous ways of living. I just, there would be, I don't think any, maybe there would be talent in terms of trade and skills and things, but talent as if it's some sort of given. I don't know. I'm
No, but you make a really valid point because talent does sort of have that feeling, that flavor of chosen or only so, you're born with a talent, and if you don't have it, well, then you don't have it. You have something else. The-
yeah.
There is, I mean, there are people who just sort of pop out knowing how to create in certain ways or can sing or can dance or whatever. And I give that credit. I mean, because that is true. But you're right. I mean, to say talent, maybe that's not the best word. Maybe
Like
that's not the
maybe
best word.
like maybe they came into this world with certain wisdom based on their DNA, based on their ancestors, based on their soul path, whatever, you know. And that feels true to me,
Mhm.
I don't know, something about the word talent, it feels man-made. It feels like a human created concept.
Yeah, a label or another box to
Another
put things in.
Yes, yes, exactly. So yes, we can learn skills and I absolutely encourage that. Like if somebody is really wanting to learn how to skillfully draw a human form or paint or shade or whatever it is or learn to create in a certain style, absolutely. Like there are so many resources available more today than ever. Even free, even, YouTube videos. I mean, classes, workshops. There's so many teachers out there who teach specific skills around art making and creativity. And if that's calling to you, then follow it, but that's part of what we practice in here, wherever here is, you and I, with what we do, is trusting those inner impulses. And so when you're following the thread of your inner impulses, maybe it's leading you toward learning how to throw pots on a wheel or create manga style comics, or it's you just follow your desires and you can learn skills if you wish. But what can't be taught by somebody else, I believe, is our own inner spark,
Yes.
our own life force vitality. People can guide us back to it, but nobody else can give it to you. It is part of who you inherently are. It is part of your being. It's part of your life energy. And so that is something that is truly the gift that we all have. And it'll manifest in different ways for different people, but that I think is connected to that childlike curiosity and wonder that those famous artists we talked about earlier are trying to get back to, to let go of conventions and come back to that spark.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think the bottom line is just doing it, right? And being okay with that being okay with the fact that it doesn't look like how I wanted it to look, but I'm moving with it. And that in itself will put wheels in motion to what you just talked about. So, I mean,
Mhm.
self-discovery. We won't
Yeah.
know what we love. We won't shine our light as brightly if we don't at least practice a little bit and get curious and move with that. It may, it may not be process art or art making itself that ends up being your thing, but what we're saying is like that childlike essence of imagination and getting curious that will uncover more of who we truly are. And like you said, folks can lead you to that in yourself. And that's what this process art can do, like in spades for sure. But no one is going to have your essence, your flavor, your magic. It is yours and yours alone. And I mean, I was thinking about this earlier, a lot of people right now are saying, shine your light. It's really important. It's important that you shine your light. And it's like, I can remember not even knowing what that meant. Like, what do you mean, shine my light? And
Mm,
I think what we're talking about right now is that,
mm-hmm.
because it's that,
Yeah.
yeah, it's that flavor, um, that unique quality that is ours and ours alone.
So when it didn't make sense to you, like what did that bring up for you when somebody would say that?
It would bring up a lot. Like, well, I mean, come on. I was a major curmudgeon back in the day because I was so like iced over. All of my feelings and everything were just kept so tightly within that I didn't know. I mean, I really didn't know anything except what I was receiving from the outside, what I was told how to dress. I looked to fashion or my friends or whatever. I never even considered, well, what do I like? It
Mm,
was
yeah,
always
yeah.
fashion. Or how do I want to wear my hair? Or, yeah, I mean, fill in the blank, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And there are still things that I'm uncovering, like, oh, I don't even think I ever liked that music, but I did like this music. And I'm going to start listening to
Mm.
that. And I mean, just that whole thing. And so when someone would say, shine your light, I would get annoyed.
Yeah.
And I think that annoyance was like this level of defense, right? Protecting me from what I didn't know.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
was annoying to hear that. And then after that, I think I just didn't know what that meant.
Yeah. Yeah. And I imagine that's probably true for a lot of us,
Yes.
depending on where we are on our path. And again, that is the beauty of creativity, is that coming home to ourselves and what the heck is in here? What is in me? Who am I? What are my true desires? And what do I want to do? What do I want to create? What do I like? What do I dislike? And to kind of separate from those outer messages, I mean, that is a life journey. That can be a lifelong path, especially if we are super conditioned by the outer world. I mean, and expectations and cultural norms. I know I am on that path for myself as well, and it is a step-by-step discovery.
Mhm.
And I am coming home even more to my love for nature and starting to develop a love for plants and for healing through plants and things that I just never even considered in the past. And it opens this childlike, like this desire for knowing, like this desire to learn and to just like ingest all the knowledge I can that I can receive, and it's exciting. And so when we can find something like that, something new that's like, oh, what do I want to learn about now? And not what should I be doing, but what really lights me up. I mean, that's again, that's learning to trust that childlike essence and that divine spark within us. I mean, that curiosity, that wonder.
Absolutely. That hunger for experience and not being afraid of it, but
Hunger.
just being like just pure curiosity, like a child.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, may we always be
Mhm.
connected to that. Will you always paint like a first grader? My answer would be, I hope so. I hope that you always maintain a connection to that raw expression, to that pure innocence, to that hunger that you mentioned, Steph. And again, it can grow from there. It can develop. You can learn. You can expand your skills. But may you always be connected to that.
Mm, absolutely. That too would be my response.
Mm,
Absolutely.
mm.
May you always.
Yeah, yeah.
This has been
Ah,
fun.
great. Yes, it has. I know we usually close with some practices. So do you have any writing prompt ideas around this topic, Steph?
I do. I have one writing prompt and it's simple, but it could unlock a whole bunch of stuff. And the
Great.
writing prompt is, what would happen if I gave myself permission to create like a first grader?
Mm.
So let us know how that goes for you.
What that brings up. Yeah.
Yeah, what it brings up. And then Jenny, what's your exercise for
Yeah.
today?
Well, I for today I want to share what I'm calling a wabi-sabi crayon drawing. We've talked about wabi-sabi in here before, but basically the art of deliberate imperfection. So the practice is to, if you have crayons at your house, to grab them and a sheet of paper. If you don't have them, they're pretty affordable at a dollar store or wherever. It doesn't even have to be crayons, but that really connects. Like when I think of creating like a child, as a child, that is like holding a crayon in my hand and reading the names of the colors and stuff. It's
Yes.
like, so making a fast and squiggly drawing using crayons, keep it simple, keep it childlike. Stick figures are welcome. Fill the page with playful marks, with doodles, and let it be imperfect. Let it have those wabi-sabi qualities of the beauty in imperfection, in the beauty in simplicity, and not needing things to be pristine or perfect. And see how that feels. See how that feels in your body and in your being, to let yourself, to give permission really to do that. See what
Mm.
it brings up for you.
Oh, I love that. Yes, we are officially giving you permission to do
We are
that.
giving permission. That's right.
Sometimes that's all it takes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that is true. And if we're not giving it to ourselves, sometimes somebody else giving it to us, it's like, oh, okay, I can step into that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ooh,
All right. Well, do you feel complete, Steph?
I do. This has been a good conversation as always. Maybe we'll
Yeah.
do more questions that we hear in the studio. Questions from the studio. Who knows?
Yeah, yeah. So if there's something that, yeah, something you want us to speak to, listener, please send it our way. Please.
Absolutely.
We'd love
Yeah.
to chat about it. Yeah.
And you can reach us by just going to our website, creativenectarstudio.com. You can also reach us on Facebook, Instagram. Please say hello. Please like our stuff because that helps like share the love and all we just really want to create community in all the ways. So, yeah, let us know how you are.
And speaking of community, we have our Soul Nectar online community. which you can join if you feel so led. We've got a great group that has convened, and we do a monthly live Zoom call where we create together from wherever we are, and support one another. We have a private group for that. And yeah, please check that out if that speaks to you.
Absolutely.
All right.
Right.
Well,
Until next time.
until next time, be well, everyone, and keep painting like a first grader. Bye bye.